Here you go. Hope you're all well. Let's get this thing on my screen so I can read the messages. There we go. Hi, Josh, James, Jack, Mike, Chad, Tom, Boris. How is everybody doing this evening? Hope you're all well. Hi, Tony. So I'm currently using this Samsung S10 new phone. Hope the sound is okay. Checked it out a little bit earlier on. It seems to be okay. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Samsungs, but it's using a wide angle lens at the moment. I'd like to use a lens a little bit closer in. And this phone has got 3 lenses. Anybody know if while you're doing a live on YouTube, or even beforehand, I couldn't see how to do it beforehand either, how you can set it to choose which camera? Because there's too much on the periphery here. It's got a really wide angle lens, which is nice to get in. I suppose I can just get in a lot closer. It kind of looks a bit like Ben's picture now, Ben the Artful Codger. With a little bit of a silhouette kind of vignette kind of situation going on. Hi Daniel, how are you? Hi Tim, how you doing? So just an update by way of all the pipes that I've recently sold. All got shipped out the end of this week rather, besides for this one, which will go out probably on Monday. That one just sold I think on Friday. I think that was pipe 34 something, 344 maybe, something along those lines. So that sold. And the pipe that I made on Thursday, which was another version of this, I think it was 348 maybe, or 3 something like that, that sold as well. So fairly up to date. They've all been shipped out. So I'm using now no, I wouldn't mess around with it during the live. It's in the camera settings. You can tell it which just to use by default or which to use for YouTube. Chad. Hey Kev. Set as default. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll do that. The thing is that it's well, actually the FaceTime camera is probably a fixed. That one was okay. The angle on that is quite wide as well, but it's not super wide, which is good for when I'm in the workshop and I can see what I'm kind of on the screen. So this pipe, I'll come to this pipe in a minute. Daniel. Just going to plug in the power so make sure we've got enough juice. So I've actually bought a 360-degree case for this phone. So it's dust proof and everything, so the screen is protected, the phone itself is protected, the back, the front and the bottom. So in order to get the power things, I have to open a little slot there. But it arrived today, so I haven't had the chance to fully charge it up. So got it plugged in now. Anywho, so this pipe, so any of you guys who watched the live in relation to this pipe, you'll know that this one had a hole. This one was originally a completely different shaped pipe. It was more like a squat tomato, kind of a squat tomato. Really much wider bowl, but I had so many issues with the bowl, and I eventually changed it into being a rhodesian. But even with that, there were some issues. You can see there's a little bit of a fissure there that doesn't go through, it's just on the surface. There's a little bit of a fissure on the top rim, just there. You can just about make it out there. And over here, you can't even see it, but there was, somewhere around there, there was a hole which went right through. So I filled that with my usual fill mix, which is basically Bry dust and glue. But I filled it halfway so that the glue comes in no contact with the bowl. And then on the inside of the bowl, which you can see that dot just there on the top of my thumb, is filled with bowl coating. And now I'm basically then wiped it out because I prefer to have a naked bowl. So I wiped out as best as I can, and I'm going to do a honey treatment. £80 as is. Ooh, that's tempting. But to be honest, you know, I kind of resolved to keep this pipe myself, Daniel. So although I appreciate your offer, I'm gonna actually smoke it myself. I'm gonna spark it up soon. So I did the sort of faux blast kind of finish on it. Basically a carving. There's an olive wood band on there, which I tried to get the grain sort of to point in the center there, which it does to some extent. Nice piece of olive wood, and that's where the stamping would usually go. Nice stem, tortoiseshell stem. It's been a V-slot cut into it. And nice smooth rim, a couple of rings, and hopefully it'll be a good servant. So I'm going to find some honey. Yeah, well, we call it shot pipe, but I will use this whenever, because as long as it smokes well and I don't have issues with it, there's no reason. I'm saying as long as I don't have issues with that hole, there's no reason for it not to smoke well. And because of the hole, and because of the other fissure on the top and the fissure on the shank, and the history of this bowl, you know, it's very possible that there are other sort of weak spots in the pipe. And so I just don't want to take the risk of giving it to anybody else or selling it to anybody else. I really wouldn't want, even if I sell it as a second with that being understood, you know, I would feel really bad if something went wrong and it ended up having issues. Can't believe the angle of this camera. It's pretty amazingly wide. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with the way it all worked together. just all sits very well, all the colours. I wonder if I can pinch and zoom. Ooh, yeah. That's better. A little bit grainy maybe, but I think it's better. All right. That's clear, that's good. So I've got some honey here. I used to always do it with a pipe cleaner, but I found it just takes too long and it's too fussy. So I decided to just get my finger in there, grab some honey out, and just whack it in. Job's a good one. And you get a much better coverage because you can make sure that you get it everywhere. No, I don't think we'd want Vaseline in there. What is a nice non-aromatic? That's a very broad brush kind of question. Do you have any inkling as to what type of tobaccos you like? I've got news for you. Luxury Twist Flake is an aromatic. And I don't mean in the generic kind of way where you could argue that all tobaccos are aromatic because they've got sugar and stuff in there. That's not what I mean. I'm pretty sure that Luxury Twist Flake has got something in there, some flavouring. Well, if you like Latakia, that's a different story. I assumed when you said that you just wanted a Virginia-based tobacco, but if you like Latakia, then you do have more options, yeah. Hey, Jose. Right. Now, what I'm going to smoke with this is I actually have to mix up a jar of this, which is the mixture I've been talking about recently, which is vanilla cream and number 4 Virginia. And I don't know if you can get them for Virginia in bulk. That would be really cool. I'd love to get a pound bag of it. I think this is 50 grams worth, well less because I've been smoking it. And I think this came from Four Noggins with the help of somebody in America who bought it for me. And I might just do that again and get more of it, enough to sell her. It's a really reasonably priced tobacco as well for Virginia. It's a very nice broken flake. And it's really nice on its own. I enjoy smoking it on its own. I'll have a look soon, Daniel, for you. As I say, it's like a broken, well, it's almost rubbed out, but it's not. There's some quite chunky pieces in there. It's somewhere between broken flake and already rubbed. But it's actually one of my favorite presentations of tobacco, because essentially you're getting the same sort of benefits of a flake, unless you're a fold and stuff. If you're not a fold and stuff person, then for me the presentation of Amphora Virginia is spot on, because I usually break up flakes to a similar consistency. Yeah, I've also only seen the pouches. Truth to be told, you know, it's cheap enough. I suppose I could buy enough to make up a pound. So the pipe was drilled with a 20mm, and it's a fairly average sized bowl. It's probably about 1 inch and a bit deep. The rim slopes inwards because the person who originally commissioned the pipe, I think wanted that, if I remember correctly. I can't remember now. So I had done that and I just left it that way, which is no bad thing. It's an interesting design feature. Well, actually, if I remember correctly, I may have done it to try and avoid another blemish in the bri. I can't recall. That crack there is a bit of a worry, I have to be honest. Do I stamp pipe numbers? I don't know. No, I did right at the beginning, but I don't. I haven't done so since probably about pipe 18 or 19 or 20, something like that. So the last 300 I haven't. What I would say is that if at some point I decide to get a laser engraver or some kind of engraver, then I might do that. There's just so many things to get on there, and I find it difficult, all the stamping. Why is this so bright now? Oh, that's better. So, the pipe. First light. Uh-oh. Thought to myself that draw is just too easy. Forgot to put a filter in. Would have been interesting to see if how that smoke would have gone without the filter. And let's hope I measured it when I did it. Yes. I had that with one of my pipes I sent off. I hadn't tested with a filter inside, and it was just shy, so the stem and the shank didn't meet, but we resolved it. Well, I can taste briar. Hi Mike. This is the pipe that I saved the other day, the one which had a hole in it. I don't know if you followed that, but hopefully there will be no adverse effects. Turned out really nice. So I guess it's like a stubby, almost a stubby Rhodesian. Hey John. Hey Tree. The draw is, as you'd expect from an LCS pipe. I'm not hearing any cracking, so hopefully the briar's not falling apart. Hey Jeff. Thank you Daniel, that's very nice of you to say so. Appreciate that. So I showed this Stanwell. Tidied up the top a little bit. Just gave it a good clean up and a polish around all round. Nice sandblast. This is a pipe of the year 1994. It's 9mm. A really nice sort of flat oblong, like an oval shank. But as I was cleaning up the bit, I noticed a hairline crack there. It can be smoked, but I don't know if that's something I'm going to have to deal with, or if somebody will buy it as it is, or I'll get in touch with the seller. It's absolutely no problem to clench, but I couldn't guarantee that it wouldn't get worse in all clear conscience. That's a gorgeous pipe. It's a lovely shape. It's got a slightly panelled side. Nice sandblast. Really nice shape. Interesting shape. And it's very flat as well for 9mm. Jack, absolutely. Jarring a tobacco makes a huge difference. St James's flake as well. And if you take it straight out of the tin, like a lot of Periques, they have a fairly rough kind of character. They need to just settle a little bit, and sticking it in the jar will start that process. No, that was just a notification. I need to turn this sound off. I don't know if I'm going to do something here or not. Can't use. I wasn't using that key. Alright, I've put it on to vibrate. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you in mind, Daniel. We'll see what I can find. I'm not going to do it this precise moment, but I'll have a look. Maybe a little bit later on during the live. Perhaps I'll take out a few pipes, see if anyone's interested. For a match blend from Pipes and Cigars. The thing with the match blends, I can't say I've smoked that many match blends, but the ones that I've tried from Sutliff especially, and I can't imagine that Pipe and Cigars do their own blending. I would imagine that they're just rebranding some tobaccos that they're buying in, some bulk blends. But I find that a lot of the match blends, in order to get that matched flavour, they often will use aromatics to do that. And the one that I saw that the most with was the match 515 RC1, which is the match for Virginia Woods. And you all know that I use Virginia Woods to make up my London Fog blend. And I've tried the 515 RC1, and it does taste quite similar. But once you get down half the bowl, that flavour goes, and that's what leads me to believe that they've arrived at the flavour through aromatics. And once the aromatics evaporates, and then you're down to a fairly nondescript tobacco. So the ones that I've tried, I've not been a fan of in terms of match blends, and Amphora is just cheap enough. I don't see the point of it to have a match blend for it. No, I'm not using Amphora for Virginia Woods. I was using Virginia Woods as an example. The 515 RC1 is the match blend for Virginia Woods, and just not that impressed with it. I use Virginia Woods and Orlik Golden Sliced for that, for London Fog. Well, I'm not impressed with Pipes and Cigars because as soon as the laws came into effect about, you know, overseas people looking at websites and things like that, they were the first to block all UK users from their website. It's going back maybe 3-4 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm not sure if I can still get on there or not. None of the other sites did it. I mean, when the law came out, a few sites did it because they were worried, but they were the first ones to preclude us from their website, and I thought, blow you. Sure, you can put flake tobacco in a mason jar. You can put them in even in the smallest ones. You just lay them flat. if depending on the size of the flake, obviously. This is Garth Hogarth Special Black Cavendish and Virginia. I haven't smoked it in ages. This thing is covered in sugar, but there's some flakes laid flat in a flat jar. I love these size of jars. They take 50 grams very nicely and they don't take up too much room. Obviously volume wise they take up the same room as a taller one, but because of the flat sort of aspect of it, anyway, I feel like it takes up less room. This thing is glistening, it's like it's covered with glitter. You can see the little streaks of white there. Actually, I might try this. I haven't smoked it for so long. Maybe I'll smoke it after this. Hey Bob, how you doing? I've got jars of all sizes. I've got big jars. I've got very big jars. That's a pound jar of mature Virginia. I've got a bunch of big jars hidden in my cupboard at the bottom there, where it's nice and dark. Keep them out of the sunlight if you're aging them. And I think this camera is wider than I can see on my screen. I just seen back that you guys can see me. There you go. Do I recall correctly, Ian, that you've been smoking for like 60 years or something? Well, Mike, after you got me those few pouches of the mature Virginia, I came across somebody who was selling off some tobacco, and they had a pound bag. I went, yes, please. 40 years. Well, there you go. In 40 years, you either just smoke what you buy, or over that time you must have amassed some tobaccos that you like. I've got one tin of Kramer's. I've got an open tin in one of my Tupperware containers. I don't remember which one it is. It was an interesting mixture, a Latakia mixture. I forgot to weigh this pipe. I'll weigh it with a bit of tobacco in it. It feels like it's probably around 50 grams. Well, it's 54 grams with the tobacco in, so it's probably about 51, 52 grams. So that's just about right. Well, Bob, flake tobacco, if it's in an unopened box, in foil and sealed in, I don't know what MFG is, but it needs to be in an airtight container. if you want that to age properly, you want to put it in an airtight container. You could try vacuum sealing it in a vacuum bag. Cheers, Jose. But even vacuum bags, if you're talking about long-term aging, it's not going to be good enough, because vacuum bags can let air in eventually. I've been wanting to try the 7 Seas range. I haven't got around to it yet. But really and truly, if you're buying it to smoke yourself, and it's not something that you might consider selling at a later date, then get it into, if you don't have a large, if it's in a sealed tin, that's fine, you can just leave it in the tin. Some people take it a stage further and they'll put some tape around the seal on the tin if it's going to be long term. If it's in just one of the Samuel Goworth, did you say it was Samuel Goworth? If it's in one of the cardboard boxes in a bag inside, you might want to jar it up. You might want to just either put it into a few smaller jars or one large jar, and make sure it's in an airtight container. That's really the best advice. I would even say Tupperware containers are not really good enough. I've got about 4 Tupperware containers with open tobacco, and I'm not really, I should be more fussy about my tobacco, but I'm not. And when I go back to some of it is dry. It's not dry to the point of where it's lost everything. It's just dry. It's like, when you get a flake, when it's at the right moisture, when it's new, it's fresh, it's got moisture in it, and it's supple, you can bend it. The way they are now in my Tupperware containers, you can't bend them. You bend it, you snap it, but they're not brittle, they're not dust, they're not completely gone. And you could just literally put it on your tobacco tray, you breathe over it a couple of times, and you've rehydrated it. It just needs something to give it a little bit of moisture, but it's not the ideal way. The best way really is airtight glass container. Well, people do say that the square tins don't do as well as the round tins. Thankfully, I've never really experienced any problem with my tins, and long may that continue. See my windowsill, that spaghetti junction, all my plugs. In this day and age, there's always so many plugs everywhere. Everything's got to be plugged into the wall. So the mixture that I've got tonight, as I mentioned before, is vanilla cream, McBaron's vanilla cream, and Amphora Virginia. And the reason why I use Amphora Virginia as opposed to, say, something like Orlik Golden Sliced or Full Virginia Flake or anything like that is because, well, Full Virginia Flake is just, you wouldn't really want to use that as a mixer. That would be interesting, Tim, to see if there was a difference. But stuff which I know that I'm leaving to age for at least a couple of years, I just put it down in the cupboard down there where it stays dark. And because it's cheaper, that's one reason. But mainly because of the flavor profile. Orlik Golden Slice, for instance, has its own flavor profile, and it's a legitimate smoke on its own. But I find that Amphora Virginia is a very I don't like to use nondescript for that, because it is actually a nice, enjoyable tobacco, but it's got a much sort of rounder but not so full flavor. It's got a nice fruity sweetness to it, but it's not a very full blend in terms of in your mouth. So it doesn't really impart a flavor on a tobacco that you're blending it with. That's what I find. So when I blend it with vanilla cream, it just acts as a dilution, and that I think it works very, very well. It dilutes the heaviness of the aromatics in the vanilla cream. Vanilla cream is a lovely tobacco. I'm smoking it all the time, and I'm still smoking it. I'm smoking it longer than many other tobaccos, which upon discovery I thought, ooh, this is going to be my go-to tobacco, and it is for a while, and then I find the next best thing. But this one has lasted quite long. Yeah, it's not to say that tomorrow I won't find something else, but it's lasted quite a long time now. And I do find though that if you smoke it bowl after bowl after bowl, then you get tongue fatigue, because it's such a rich, full aromatic that you can get a bit fatigued. So I find that, I thought when roll cakes came out, vanilla roll cakes, I thought that would be the ideal solution. So because when I first tried it, I hardly tasted the vanilla. It's because I tried it outside in the garage when it was very, very cold. I tried it the next day in the office here, and it was much, much better. I thought to myself, you know what, this tastes exactly like a vanilla cream, it's just lighter, a little bit more of a Virginia earthy flavor to it. Smoked it more and more, and I found that it's actually got a little bit of a different flavor profile. To me, there is definitely a more earthy, savory element to it, together with the sweet vanilla. And it wasn't really what I was looking for. I wanted vanilla cream, just not as heavy. I wanted vanilla cream light, is what I was looking for. And I'm talking about the loose cuts as opposed to the others. I'm not sure what the flake is like because I haven't tried it. So I decided to start mixing it. I tried it with Orlik Golden Sliced. I didn't like it. The flavor was just all muddled. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. And I tried it with Amphora Virginia, and it clicked straight away. It was perfect. And I've been smoking it now since last week, almost every bowl. Every bowl of vanilla cream has been with the Amphora Virginia. So I really need to mix up a jar of it. What I did was I mixed up a pouch of it, but I've already finished the pouch. With this ring. Hey Mr. Eximba, how you doing? No, I haven't smoked the bamboo yet, Josh. I want to make another stem for it before I decide whether I'm going to smoke it or sell it. And I actually had another look at it tonight, and I find often that when I look back at a pipe after having made it, and I look back at it after a day or two or even a week or two, I see something else. And when I looked at the shape of it, I thought maybe the bowl could do a slight adjustment to really make it work even better. It's a great looking pipe. It's quite a hefty piece of bamboo, and it just works. The symmetrics of the pipe work, but just the shaping of the front edge of the bowl, because the bowl, what have I got here similar? Oh. So here, this here, it's a much taller bowl, the bamboo one, and it curves in on this side. On this side it's a little bit straighter. It could do is just a little bit more curve. I could leave it as it is without any problem, but I figured maybe I'll do that. but it just means completely resanding it and going through the whole process again. First thing I want to do is the stem. Once I've done that, we'll see from there. Hi Rockin, do I ever find myself going back to Solani? Yep, the other day. Enjoyed it thoroughly. It's a really good tobacco. When I first discovered that, I smoked that for quite a bit. But it's also quite a full-on aromatic. And I could see myself doing something similar with that, is diluting it and probably smoking it more often. Because at heart, I'm not an aromatic smoker. But there are the odd few blends that I really enjoy, such as Vanilla Cream and Solani 131, but they are still aromatics and they're heavy on the flavourings. You guys remember this pipe? This is a pipe that I did with my son, Rafi. I don't know if you can get the stamping there, LCS. And the bottom it says Rafi. It's a good while ago that I made this pipe with him. Handsome looking billiard. I've noticed that I need to just sand a little bit down there, because it kind of a little bit bulbous there. Otherwise, really nice classic shape. Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe that's why it's still in the drawer. Not that I would necessarily encourage him to smoke a pipe. I cleaned up this Tom Phillips pipe. Give it a good shine. I'm going to be selling that. A nice pop. This was a pipe I had custom made, sold it, and then got it back. It's in very, very nice condition. It's hardly been smoked. Cumberland stem, Evernight Cumberland stem. Really nice pipe. This is beautiful sandblasted Stanwell, which I put a new stem on. I actually think it looks better than the original in terms of the proportions. It's really turned it into a nice Lavat. But the grain on this, the ring grain, is superior. It's got a beautiful sandblast. This is another eBay find which arrived with the wrong stem. It had a bent stem on it, and the way they took the pictures on eBay, it was like that, and it was just a bit difficult to tell. I had no idea that it wasn't a bent pipe until I got it, and that's obviously not a bent pipe. They gave me a reduction, they accepted my argument, and put a different stem on it. It's Ebonite stem. That's a lovely pipe. Very clean inside as well. Good bowl. What else? Got this little Dunhill root briar. It's a 9mm. It's probably a group 3, something like that. And this one comes with a pipe rest. This is a Dunhill pipe bowl for 2 pipes and a tamper. So I'm going to be selling these together. I think I did have it on once before. This Peterson pipe of the year which came in very, very nice condition. I don't need to do anything to it. It's ready to go. Very, very clean. '18 pipe of the year, silver band. Nice adhesion. I have this Chariton with a beautiful sandblast as well. Anyway, these will all feature in a sale in the future. Brand new Chacombe, unsmoked. Bob, you can refresh it. Obviously, with any tobacco, if you're gonna smoke a tobacco within a few days, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just smoke it straight from the tin, not a problem. If it's going to be open for a couple of weeks, then it's going to start to dry out. I mean, it will start to dry out straight away, but if, as I say, if you're smoking it within a few days, it's not really an issue. But beyond that, and it starts to dry out, you really ought to be jarring it up. You could do like they used to do in which some people I'm sure still do. I was going to say in olden times, but it wasn't really olden times, and I'm sure some people used to still do it. But if you need to rehydrate something which isn't really dehydrated, it's just dried out a little bit, you could literally hold a flake in your hand or cup it in your hand and breathe on it some warm air a few times, and it will be supple after a few breaths. You can even load your bowl and just breathe through the pipe, through the mouthpiece, and breathe on over the top of it, and it will moisten it, no problem at all. And I'm saying the old-fashioned way of doing it was to have the tobacco in a pouch or in a tin, and put some kind of hydrator in there. So in the old days they used to put a slice of apple in there, which, again, if you're going to have it in there for any length of time, that could promote mold. But if it's literally for a day or two, you know, that probably is fine. But it's not something which is recommended these days. But you know, it's what works. And you can get hydration stones. You know, you can get stones which absorb water, and you just pop it in the tin, and it will keep it hydrated. I find for some reason that Pavida bags don't work so well with pipe tobacco. I don't know why. I have never got to the bottom of that. But I've put Pavida bags in jars with dehydrated tobacco, and it hasn't done anything to it. Not for a very long time anyway. It takes a really long time for that to happen. You've been smoking a pipe for 52 years, Bob, so why you should be teaching us? Which tobacco did you smoke over those 52 years, Bob? G'day, Glenn. You just need to have a cold one. That'll put you right. Won't stay lit. That's because you've got your beer glugging all over it. You don't drink? Are you an Aussie? That's so cliched, isn't it? Sorry, Glenn. Alright, Jim, thanks for joining. English stem? What's an English stem? Do you mean a fishtail? Is that what you call an English stem? Is that another way of describing that? No, never heard that said before. Interesting. You learn something new every day. Every day is a school day. Interesting. They just put the word English because they think that all you Yanks will fall for it. Bit like we fell for Meghan, you know, anything American. Yeah. Have you won it then, Josh? How you doing, Andrew? How's the bride dust making getting on? What number are you up to? Number 18, a canted stag. Thicker walls this time or no? How long have you been turning, Glenn? $2015. Well, that's roughly when I got onto the YTPC, and you were there when I started. You were one of the guys at that time. The YTPC is a very different place nowadays. Not in a bad way, just very different. Very, very different. I would say it's grown exponentially compared to what it was 5 years ago. a lot of people have fallen by the wayside as well. But I think more people have come on than have gone off. Yeah, that is the nature of things. I can't see my lighter anyway. Here we go. Typical. Mike Apple. I don't recognise your handle. Welcome. Well, Bob, I guess you'd be what we'd call a codger pipe smoker, in a most respectful way, of course. Oh no, I wasn't trying to imply that it changed for the worse at all. I'm just saying it's different. And you know, every cloud has a silver lining, and certainly the pandemic bringing on these lives and the Zooms, although I was doing lives way before the pandemic, but it certainly brought a lot more people together. The people out there who weren't able to get to pipe clubs, now I've got an ability to get together with people virtually. It's fantastic. I'm sure all of that will stay beyond the pandemic. I'm sure of it. How's the COVID, Jeff? You and the missus okay now? Taste and smell back? Yeah, honeyline bowl. I did it earlier on in the stream, and you can see the difference. It's already really blackened, and the ash sticks to the bowl, and it creates that carbon layer straight away. And hopefully it's really sealing in that fill as well by the time I get down the bowl. Good to hear that, Jeff. I'm sure it'll be right to rain soon enough. There was a bit of a scare that YouTube was going to start dumping us, but that didn't transpire. Hopefully it won't. No, I'm sure it's not going anywhere. I just think that the Zooms and the lives is just supporting it. I think it's going to make it even better. It already has. You know, all these channels interviewing people. It's just all that does is that it just creates a much bigger family in the YTPC, because we're all subscribed to different people. We might have a central nucleus of people that we subscribe to, and we may have a lot of us may have common people that we're subscribed to in common, but we also have lots of people we're subscribed to and other people are not. And when you bring people together, it just perpetuates and increases. It kind of radiates out. And you know, when people do giveaways, or when people do shout outs, people do sort of competitions, it increases. You know, sometimes you feel there's a limit to how many people you can subscribe to because your feed gets completely drowned out, but I definitely feel that it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Jeff. Yeah, zoomed completely rocked it, didn't it? What is the coating? Do you mean the inside coating of the pipes? Well, I don't coat my pipes usually. I leave mine bare, and when I first start a pipe, I first break in a pipe, I just give it a quick coating of honey and then light up. Hey XJ. Cass has invited me on, so I'll be doing a chat with him at some point. I still haven't done my vaccine. This has smoked really well. I'm now starting to get that harshness from a new briar, but I'm going to persevere because I just want to smoke it right down. I want to get past that hole. Do you know what? I honestly cannot find it. I know it was on this side somewhere. Hey, our pleasure, Bob. When you say fancy tobaccos, that's all marketing. All it is just different blends. You know, when most of it, I mean, occasionally you'll get a special blend because it's got some aged tobacco in it and stuff like that, but yeah, I hate breaking in a new pipe as well, Glenn. Absolutely hate it. But I still prefer it to breaking in or starting on an estate pipe. I find with estate pipes, you got to be lucky to have something with a neutral flavor. I find a lot of times, especially if you're buying on eBay from a dealer, you'll get the pipe and it looks immaculate. They'll have put a really light coating on the inside, so it may not necessarily look like it's had the new bowl coating, but it has even, you know, the consistency of paint, just to give it a clean, fresh look. And you might smoke it, and you know, the first few draws, this is okay, it's pretty neutral. After the first bowl or two, then suddenly, granny pants comes and bites you on the butt. I have to say, it took me a long time to overcome my what's the word? My ickiness smoking an estate pipe And when I first learned of the whole concept of an estate pipe, I was completely grossed out. You know, and if you think about it, it's gross out worthy. It really is. But still, once I got over that, I only buy cheap pipes, Mike. Sorry, the guy you're talking about. Yeah, definitely, Glenn. Definitely, new pipes definitely are more bitey. They're harsher. You don't get the true taste of the tobacco for a good few bowls. But I find that for me, the honey coating helps. It really does. I find that the honey coating just, number one, creates a barrier between your tobacco and the briar. It may not create a complete barrier, and I'm not saying that you won't get the new briar taste. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But I find that it helps. I find, number one, it starts the cake quicker. It helps to promote the build-up of cake, the honey. It doesn't give sweetness. You might think that because it's honey, it's going to give sweetness to the bowl. It doesn't, because it caramelizes straight away. It turns to carbon straight away. You know, as you're going down the bowl, whichever point you're up to, that's turning to carbon immediately as it burns. So you're not getting sweetness from it, but you're getting a barrier. And there's just creating at least something of a barrier between the tobacco and the briar. Chad. Did you get them off eBay, Chad? Your relatives? Estate underwear is where you draw the line. D-R-A-W-E-R. Draws. Oh, thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. There you go. There's an expert who's been doing exactly what I do. Thank you, Glenn. Cue Josh. Wait for it. Oh, Simon. Jeez. So, Bob. Exactly, Josh. So, Bob, do I use different pipe for different tobaccos? Yes, but within the same genre, I use the same pipes. So I wouldn't use the same pipe for. Many people do. They don't care, just smoke whatever. But I keep my Latakia pipes separately, just for Latakia, aromatics for aromatics, and Virginias and vapors for Virginias and vapors. Definitely do that. But within those genres, then I'll smoke any Virginia and any Virginia pipe, any Latakia and any Latakia pipe. The rubber tips, the I forgot what they call them now. Anyway, those when I first started smoking a pipe, I did use those, the rubber tips, but they became too much of a mouthful for me. I didn't enjoy it, and I started then using the softy bits. Yeah, thank you. And I started using, insulating. What do they call that rubber tubing that you melt? You heat up with a heat gun around, say, an electrical connection. Heat shrink, something like that. Something shrink, heat shrink. Yeah. I started using that. Actually works very, very well, because it doesn't. It's really just there's no thickness to it at all. And when you heat it, it wraps around the button and it assumes the shape of the button. It actually works very well, and I would recommend that, because you still get the benefit of the shape, generally speaking. There's a little bit of thickness added, but really just a minute amount. But in the end, number one, it was too much hassle. Number two, your saliva gets underneath it enough said. And number three, once especially, although I stopped long before I started making pipes, but to me, you know, most pipe makers spend a lot of time. They spend a lot of time around this region to make it comfortable. You then go and whack a great big rubber thing over it. You know, you've lost all of that work. You've lost that comfort. You know, you've lost that whole experience. And so for me, if it means that I'm going to have chatter on there, and if I decide to sell the pipe and I need to clean it, so be it. Hey Claude, thank you. Chatter is definitely part of the life of a pipe. Oh yeah, tongue bite is a rite of passage. Unfortunately, it puts too many people off it, but that was my first experience with smoking a pipe. I've talked about it many times, that first pipe I bought in Cigar and Snuff in Covent Gardens. I had no idea how to fill a bowl. I crammed it full of tobacco. I couldn't draw. Trying to light it, trying to keep it alight, burnt my tongue. But for some reason I persisted and went online, and then the whole YouTube thing started. I discovered all of the channels that were on there, and I was away. I think my biggest moment in pipe smoking was discovering filters, without a doubt. Not at all, Bob. Feel free. It was good to have you on board. I'm here usually every Saturday night this time, and often during the week when I make a pipe. But those videos don't always stay up, or at least they don't stay up for long. But thanks for joining, and have a good one. Hope to see you next time. See, this pipe looks now like it's been smoked already for quite some time. It's got a good coating already, and hopefully within, I would say, 4 to 5 bowls, this one will be just fine. It's pretty good now. Oh yeah, where is Paul? It's Saturday night, he's probably on a Raz. Well, thankfully, we haven't really had, over the years, I haven't had that much need for moderation. And I don't find that we have that very much in the YTPC. Thankfully, the only person who really had to deal with it was Matches, the late Matches 860. And that's because he had so many people. He routinely had 100 guys on. And to be honest, although when he was doing it on Friday nights I couldn't join anyway, but I didn't enjoy them as much as you know, we all loved matches. But it was impossible to really enjoy his live streams because you couldn't engage. There's just too many people, and you couldn't actually have a proper conversation. It was impossible. All right, have a good one, Bob. Don't worry about the thumbs up. It's funny how you change over time. You know, your tastes in pipes, your tastes in tobacco, even stems. You know, I used to really rant against acrylic stems. I used to hate acrylic stems, and I always went for Cumberland stems, for Brindle stems, Mike. Sorry, Brindle stems. I used to think that Brindle was softer than ebonite or vulcanite, but in reality it's exactly the same stuff, just two colors. But I was convinced that they were more comfortable. And they certainly are softer than acrylic. I can say that as a pipe maker as well, making this stuff. You know, it is much softer than acrylic. But in the end, it's really just about how comfortable the bit is. And the vast majority of my pipes that I make have acrylic bits, and I enjoy them thoroughly. I really don't have that problem that I used to have. And you just change over time. Interestingly, a lot of the Italian pipe carving houses use acrylic. Am I right, Mike, that Castello, generally speaking, use acrylic, and Caminetto and Ascorti, the vast majority of them all use acrylic, don't they? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, and that's really where Chris Eldridge has come in. I mean, the rods that he's made, he's tried to kind of get the best of both worlds. So to have a soft feeling material, number one for comfort, and number two for shaping and carving and sanding. It sands very, very easily, but it also doesn't oxidize because it has acrylic properties or plastic properties, but it also has the softness of ebonite. So they won't oxidize. It's a very interesting material. Cumberland is literally just an ebonite stem with two colors. Nowadays they've got more colors as well, but originally the black and red Cumberland stem, I believe the term was coined by Dunhill in their Cumberland range of pipes. I believe that's when it started. I'm sure Mike will correct me. They had a range, which they still have now, I think, but they stopped it for a while. The Cumberland range, which is more of a rustic looking finish. It's a sandblasted finish with like it's not quite tan, it's a bit darker than tan, a brown finish. And for that they used the Cumberland stems to kind of match in harmony with the pipe finish. Yeah, it was named after one of the streets that one of their factories was on. Yep, that's true. Were bowling balls ever made of ebonite? Nowadays they all look pretty much like acrylic. That flame reminded me of Le Don Mott Briarblade. His Zippo always was like a furnace, like a torch. Red and brown, okay. I used to go bowling as a teenager. In my early 20s. It used to be quite good. Used to go on Saturday nights. There used to be a bowling hall near Heathrow Airport. It doesn't exist anymore. And I think I used to be up around the 200 mark, 200 plus. The Barn Finder. There's a hall near Heathrow that was there 2 years ago. What, a bowling hall? Granny pants. Lignum vitae. Close cousin of curriculum. What's on the agenda for this week? Making pipes. I'm up to date on all my shipping, as I said earlier on. All the pipes are shipped out except for the last pipe that I made, or the last couple of pipes. You live 20 minutes from Heathrow, cool. I don't remember what it was called, the one that I used to go to. I'm talking about 30 years ago. I wonder if it's the same one. That would be quite awesome. I wonder how many of these places are closing down because of the pandemic. I guess everybody's in the same boat, but generally speaking, I've been pleased to see when I drive around that most places are still there. There's a few, every few shops, there's an empty shop, but generally speaking, most places seem to have hung on. Billiards. I used to play a lot of snooker as a teenager as well. A lot of snooker. That was my Saturday night. I wasn't the best potter, but had very good control of the cue ball. You know, being able to move it around the table, screwbacks, that kind of thing. I think I'd struggle nowadays on a full-size table. I don't even know who the players are now, Tom. Who are the main guys now? I mean, I used to watch Dennis Taylor, Steve Davis, Jimmy White, Hurricane Higgins towards the end of his career. And then, what was his name? The Scottish lad? Ronnie O'Sullivan I got as well, yeah. No, Judd Trump doesn't ring a bell. Stephen Hendry, Tom, yeah, exactly. Stephen Hendry, I enjoyed watching him, but for me he was... I'm not sure why, but whenever he played somebody else, I preferred the other person. I don't know why. Just something about him. I don't know if he was boring or what, I don't know. Well, boring was Steve Davis, but there was something about him, his character, which appealed to me, even though he was slow and purposeful and considered, and you could fall asleep watching him. But I enjoyed watching Steve Davis, just the perfection of the way he played when he was at his best. Ronnie O'Sullivan, you couldn't help but enjoy watching him, and for the same reason Jimmy White. Colourful characters, tornado around the table. So entertaining. And there was another few guys, I can't remember the names. There was quite a fat guy with he was bald, he had a little bit of a sweep over. Don't remember his name. For me, those were the golden years for snooker. Are there any women in snooker? I mean, I know there are women snooker players, but do they have mixed kind of women? Can a woman join the World Snooker Championships? Has that come into the 21st century yet? So now there's women playing in these championships now? Any of them, contenders for the championship? Where are you watching it? Which channel is it on? Oh, it's on the BBC. Cool. Is it on live now? Well, Fordham seems to be the professional way to go. I've not yet invested in a Fordham, and for what I use mine, it works very well. The one that I've got is the one with it's got speed control on it. Okay, so you have to do it on the unit itself, whereas the Fordham has a foot pedal, and I guess you can control it without touching anything, you know, hands free. But I've not really seen a need to adjust the speed while I'm doing something, you know, where I'm adjusting it the whole time up and down. If I need to do it slower, I just slow it down on the machine, and then if I'm doing something different, I'll speed it up. But I've never really had a situation where I would feel that the foot pedal would help me. I'm sure some people do. I have mine all stored, you know, no particular thing. I have my jars up there without too much fuss. I keep the curtain closed most of the time so there isn't direct sunlight on it, and that's about what I would recommend. It's just to keep it out of direct sunlight, but if you can keep them in a drawer, all the better. Reds has his in a cellar, a real tobacco cellar. Whoa, 20-2. I don't have any stones in the jars, no. They go in if the tobaccos go in with a good degree of moisture, then you don't need it. The jars maintain whatever humidity you put them in. If you've got decent quality airtight jars, they will never dry out. Alright, Simplex, how's it going? Well, gentlemen, I think this is as good a time as any to wish you all a good night or a good morning wherever you are. Thank you for joining. It's 20-2, so if you've got any other questions, then please ask them now. So in the meantime, I'm going to wish you all good night. Good night, Tree. Good night, Andrew. Good night, Ian. Good night, Simplex. Good night, Bob, Claude, Reds, Bob Craigle, Ian Reed, James Thumbo, Simon, Tom, Andrew, Glenn, Boris, and everybody else. If I haven't mentioned you, thank you for joining. Tom, how you doing, Tom? Idzinski, that is. And thank you very much for the happy birthday. Much appreciated it. I wish you all well. I will probably catch you, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. We'll see how we go. If we get a pipe on the go. Thanks very much. Catch you on the next one. The sound was good, right? You didn't feel it was low at all. Good night, Mike. Spot on. Cool. All right, good. Thanks very much, everybody. Nighty night.